folks, welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to your Tuesday live stream. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, pleased to be joined by fellow lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy CJ Vogel, and also he's back from vacation, well-earned and well-deserved, of course. It's my man, esteemed colleague and newest member of the On Texas Football family, my good friend Jeff Howe's joining us as well. Thank you guys for joining us. Really appreciate it. We are expecting, you guys know I don't like the jinx special guest that we have on the program, but we are expecting a special guest around 7:45 during this live stream. So maybe we can just drop some hints about who it will be. First hint is it is a member of the 2026 recruiting class. I'll just throw that out there. Boom. That's the first hint. I'll let CJ give you one. I'll let Jeff give you one. And y'all got to figure out who it is. Unless they have already revealed it. I don't know. Maybe did Jerry already reveal this? Did he already say it? Jerry might have already told everybody, and I already might have tweeted out. But if he didn't, I'm from the radio world, so I don't like the jinx guess because I've been stood up a lot in radio. You tease it all day long, you tease it for 2 hours, like, and here it comes, and then you get a text like, "Oh, sorry, they couldn't make it," or they're on a plane. It's like they're on a plane. Why did they tell me they could do an interview if they was going to be on a plane? But anyway,
I'm still waiting, Rod. Desmond Howard is about almost 9 years late for an interview with me and John McDaniel.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, Bobby spilled it. All right. In case Bobby already spilled it, then I'll just give it to you.
So much for the surprise. The suspense.
All right. I thought we were going to have some drama on the show. No drama. Kosi Okpala is expected at 7:45. And from what I hear about the young man, I am not worried about being stood up, all right? Because he's probably going to be early. I guarantee you that from what I hear about Kosi Okpala. So thanks to Jerry for setting that up. It'll be coming up at 7:45. In the meantime, got a lot to get into. Of course, we will talk recruiting on the show. Some Longhorn fans disappointed. Hey, there you go. See, CJ's giving some false enthusiasm there. So Longhorn fans, some of them disappointed, but I think if you've been paying attention to the On Texas football team here, then I think you kind of expected what went down there with Brandon Rouse, but we'll talk about that a little bit, and some of the other, the Jalen Lott commitment as well. But we'll talk about some of the other commitments going to be coming up this week for the Longhorns. We'll also get into Pro Football Focus ranking the best, I think the top 10 college football coaches around the country. We'll get into that topic, and also SEC Media Days. We now know who the two Texas who will represent the Longhorns at SEC Media Days. They actually know all the teams and who will be represented. I believe 3 for every school is the number that was thrown out there. So we'll talk about the 3. It was 3 of the 4 that I actually suggested. I think they got one that I didn't. There's one that was left out that I suggested that they bring too. So we'll dive into that conversation coming up a little bit later on the show. But whatever you guys want to talk about, you guys know how it works. You drive the show any direction you want to. Questions, comments, we'll try to address as many of them as we can. Super chats, always jump to the front of the line so you can interrupt the show at any time. Let's dive right into it. All right, guys.
Can we start? Can I make a special request to how we start the show tonight, Rod?
Please do.
CJ will be proud of me because I'm not a big gambler, right? But I went to Vegas. It was my first trip to Vegas. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go by the sports book, and I'm going to drop 2 little wagers. So, yes, I have my money riding on Texas to win the national championship and a little bit on Arch to win the Heisman Trophy.
I like it.
My first trip to the sports book. Going all in on Bevo in 2025.
That is appropriate because one of the topics we're going to bring up, and Blake Monroe does a great job kind of covering all bases, if you will, for us here at On Texas Football. He put out a tweet earlier today, and I don't know what your odds were, Jeff. You can share that if you'd like. But it did say in that tweet that I think it's DraftKings, actually, the DraftKings sports book, that Arch Manning was the most wagered on of the Heisman candidates. Thank you very much. That's why Matthew is the best in the business. Yeah, according to DraftKings Sportsbook, he is receiving 20% of the total money and 35% of the bets. One of those being Jeff, of course. He's currently at plus 650, which is the overall favorite right now to win the Heisman. I mean, just absolutely wow. So there you go, Jeff. Hey, I don't know what your odds were. Did you get better odds than DraftKings?
I got him at I got Arch at I think I got Arch at plus 550, I think.
Oh, that's good. There you go. All right.
Yeah, and I think Texas might have been plus 650, but it's somewhere around there. It's in the ballpark.
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, what was the last time a team who hadn't won the national championship? Because Texas is probably going to be. They might be picked number one when the polls come out too. Right? That could happen too. Like that. Right now there are some because you look at they have the best. Did they have the best odds to win the national title or tied for it when you went, Jeff? Right?
Yeah, they were. I believe they had it was Texas, Georgia, Clemson seems like they're making up ground lately. I don't know if everybody was just reading on TexasFootball.com and saw Jerry's post there a couple of days ago, but I think everybody's realizing like how garbage the ACC is going to be this year. And I think okay, you got Cade Klubnik, you got a roster with some NFL players on it. Yeah, so Clemson's gaining some traction, but yeah, it's like Texas, Georgia, Clemson, Ohio State's getting some action too. So I think the defending champs, you got to. That's my thing with defending national champ. Like even Michigan last year, like I learned that a long time ago. I remember when I was a kid, it was 92. It was the year Dallas was getting ready to play San Francisco in the NFC Championship game when the Cowboys went to their first the first Super Bowl 27 for the 3 and 4 years. Now I remember the 49ers beat Washington in the divisional round, and John Madden said something that I've always tried to live by. He said, hey, the defending champion is still the defending champion until they're dead and buried, until they're done. So I respected Michigan in that vein last year. I will respect Ohio State the same way this year.
No, I agree with you on that. But, you know, and CJ, you probably can maybe because you have bet more probably in your, I don't know. I don't know how long you've been betting. So I don't want to put you out there like that. But you've been betting a long time and you like to do it. But what's the last time you could think of a team hadn't won the national championship and not returning a starting quarterback, but that quarterback is the Heisman favorite, and likely Texas could end up having be voted number one at least, or at least when the first polls come out, be the number one team. Any preseason polls come out, they could be the number one team, could be picked to win the SEC as well. And it's just, you know what I mean? Like I don't think we've ever really seen that, the team that's going to have the best odds to win the national title and the player with the best odds to win the Heisman, and yet they're not defending champions, and it's not a returning starter at all.
It's pretty crazy, all things considered. I mean, I put up an article today of just going through the number of brand new head coaches, the brand new offensive coordinators, defense coordinators, and brand new starting quarterbacks, and you know, there's 4 teams Texas plays that has all 4 returning, but obviously Texas is not one of them. Right. And so normally you would think in a given year that gives you a leg up. And it's not like Texas went out and broke the bank for a big time portal guy. You could look at Ohio State last year, I think, as a school that was pretty heavily considered to be in that running for the national championship after not winning it. But Will Howard was probably nowhere to be found on those Heisman ballots.
No way.
Right? So that negates them. I couldn't imagine, Rob, that there's many, or if that list is long, it can't be very long.
You know who it might have been, Rod, that I think about it? And I think it was I think it would have been the 2019 season, or maybe it was 2020. Georgia didn't win. Kirby didn't win his first title till a couple years down the road, but Georgia brought back a really talented roster, and JT Daniels transferred from SC to Georgia. And that was the time where everybody's all in on JT Daniels maybe being the number 1 pick in the draft. And I don't know if he was the Heisman favorite, but he was probably in the running. It might have been that Georgia JT Daniels year, one of like 2019, 2020. But I'm racking my brain. Like I can't, other than that one, maybe I can't think of one off the top of my head like that.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one. That is a good one. You know, I mean, and obviously Nick Saban has a lot to do with this because usually it's an easy pick to pick Alabama in the preseason polls for like, you know, like an 8-9 years straight. So, but it's just interesting. I don't think I've ever, you know, covered college football with a team that isn't a defending champion and doesn't return a starting quarterback being picked to win the Heisman and also being picked to win the national championship. So a lot of hype for Texas. All right. Let's get to some super chats. Then we'll get to some of the other topics that I want to get you guys' thoughts on. And then we'll also get to recruiting. I know we'll talk about the recruiting day today and some of the recruitments that went the other way for Texas. But let's talk about what Devon here says. CJ, with a lot of top targets off the board now, what's more likely? Stay on committed prospects or look for rising seniors? It's a good question.
Yeah, it is a great question. Look, Texas has been known to flip over the last few cycles under Steve Sarkisian. There's going to have to be some evaluation, some new offers that go out in the fall. I'm looking at the running back position as one. You don't have a guy that you really liked or even offered that's uncommitted at the moment at the running back spot. So for me, a KJ Edwards, staying on him, and unfortunately, I say fortunately for Texas, but the timing in which he did commit to Texas A&M, it was before his official visit. So he saved, in theory, his OV for the Longhorns. Now, I know Texas is going to stay after guys, I mean, just like a Jalen Lott, just like a Trenton Henderson, just like, Braden Rouse. We'll get into both of those decisions coming up, but they'll stick around. On the flip side, there's going to be late finds, an Aaron Butler, that you find basically an hour before signing day. You find Grayson Littleton, who folks don't really know a whole lot about, the big offensive lineman that, goodness, it's crazy that I'm forgetting his name already. Came in from Florida, transferred to Colorado after
Peyton Kirkland.
Kirkland, yes, thank you. He committed to Texas without ever visiting. And that's one of those things where, that's the staff works pretty mysteriously with the way that they build classes and stuff like that. So they're gonna stay on a number of their top guys, but ultimately what's going to be really interesting is who starts to pop up and who's that gem late in the class that we're talking about that otherwise we don't even know is on Texas's board.
Yeah, I was thinking about one earlier today, CJ, kind of in the brain fog of, man, the time zone changes will mess with your head. But in the brain fog, I don't know why I was thinking about it, but I started thinking, like, man, you remember when everybody, Texas and OU, went crazy over Kobe McKenzie when he blew up his senior year, and there was that hotly contested battle at the end? Like, yeah, so, CJ's right. There's going to be a handful of guys in the state of Texas, whether they were just late bloomers, maybe they had an injury as a junior, whatever, maybe they moved in, whatever the case, there's going to be guys that pop up. But there are going to be guys that Texas has missed on that I don't know how hard per se you'll recruit them, but you want to stay in the race because, man, you never know what can happen. If Dan Lanning takes an NFL job and suddenly the Oregon recruits want out, okay, what does that mean for Jalen Lott? So I think you need, if they are players that you feel are difference makers, and I think Jalen Lott's one of those guys that falls into the category of difference maker. Again, I've said on this channel, I'm not backing off of it. He's got kind of that Des Bryant, violent, freaky twitch to his game as a wide receiver. You stay on that guy until he either puts pen to paper, something that binds him to Oregon, or he just tells you to buzz off and leave him alone and stops answering the phone. So you need to stay on some guys. Also, since we're in this day and age, we're talking about roster management and salary cap and an NFL style front office. Part of that is you got to have a couple people in house dedicated to watching the portal who may go in. What's the position depth looking like at certain positions? So maybe the staff can get a good idea early on. Hey, we feel like wide receivers there are going to be plenty of wide receivers in the portal. Maybe we don't need, if there's not a senior eval guy that we're in love with, maybe we don't need to get a high school wide receiver. Maybe we just go to the portal. Likewise, a running back, maybe they say, you know what, running back can be slim pickings in the portal. We got to go all in on Derek Cooper, or we got to really try to flip Xavier Crowell, whatever it is. So it's not Devon, I guess the answer is you can't put all your eggs in one basket. You got to use with the resources Texas has had. And Rod, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you've built this NFL style development, kind of in-house talent development and talent acquisition front office. You got to utilize it, use it. And that means, man, you're not leaving any stone unturned when you're talking about look at hell. I know it's not popular and you don't use it. If you get wind that a JUCO guy pops up, maybe a JUCO edge rusher, shoot, it's been a long time since JUCO recruiting's been relevant. But man, when you're trying to win a national championship, you can't leave any stone unturned.
I agree with that. Every advantage you can get. All right, good question there, Devon. We appreciate that. Let's get back to some of the super chats here. Let's get to the first one up here with Spencer. Spencer says, "How much action are we looking at this year for Kobe Black?" Thank you for the super chat, by the way, Spencer. We appreciate that. And thank you, Devon, as well, for that super chat earlier. What do you guys got thoughts about Kobe Black? I mean, the belief was that he at least had the inside track on winning that job opposite Malik Muhammad. That was my belief about it. But of course, there's not a guarantee that spot has not been won just yet. So it is open. That could be some other guys, Warren Roberson, Jalen Gilbo can still end up being that corner and taking that spot if he's the best available option. What are you guys' thoughts about what Kobe Black ends up this season?
I think you're going to see a lot of Kobe Black. And you mentioned Jalen Gilbo. Look, I've heard that if there was a game tomorrow, it would be Gilbo outside of, at that outside corner spot next to or opposite of Manny Muhammad. But that's not to say that it's going to be him playing 100% of the snaps. The Texas defense doesn't work that way. You're going to see a lot of Kobe Black. And by the end of the year, really middle of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if we look at that Texas defense and see Black, out there as the first or second cornerback opposite of Muhammad to begin with. But his body needed some time. You saw all the tools at Waco Connolly. He's a heck of a prospect, lengthy, athletic, can twitch. But he needed time to refine, right? He still had some baby fat on him, which is kind of rare at the cornerback spot, I feel like, especially for, some unrefined guys. But I've heard great things about Kobe Black. Obviously, his brother had a heck of a career at Oklahoma State, was an undrafted free agent, ran 4.3 there. If that gives you any indication of what he could turn into, look at that 6'2" at corner running 4.4, right? That's pretty good. So heck of a spring, strong, solid summer. You're going to see a lot of them on the fall, I would bet.
Yeah, I don't think if Spencer, if you're not hearing much about Kobe Black, I don't think that's anything to do with something he didn't do in the spring. I just think my eyes, for one, are open to the fact that this is going to be, and look, it's not out of the question that Manny Muhammad could lose some snaps too if your corner rotation is that deep, because to CJ's point, Kobe Black did have a really good spring, but so did Grayson Littleton. I think was maybe one of the surprises of the spring. Cade Phillips, I think physically is going to be ready to go early. Rod, you said as much, and Rod, you've probably seen more of that young man than any of the three of us have. Cade Phillips physically will be ready to go early. I think a guy like Santana Wilson, a year older, is going to be ready to get some more snaps. So I just think you're going to be inexperienced, which is always it's always a little nerve-wracking to be inexperienced at a position like corner, where guys can get put on an island and you'd be vulnerable a little bit. But the upside of that is you're really, really talented, and you got a chance to be really, really deep at corner.
Yeah, and that was the Warren Roberson, hype in the spring.
I didn't even mention Warren Roberson, yeah,
as another guy. So yeah, they have options. So I don't think anybody's anxious or panicking about it. It's just right now a question mark. Like I said, I would assume Kobe Black has the inside track, considering he's been there in the system. And as CJ kind of mentioned, he's got the body and the frame that they want, the raw materials. As I do believe Texas wants more length and size at their cornerback position. I mean, just look at the guys they're recruiting. And I think ultimately that's because they're going to play a little bit more press man as they get deeper into this evolution. Now, whether that's next year or not, I'm not sure. That's remains to be seen. I do think they'll play more man coverage, but press man is a little different. But that's why you want these big, long, rangy Legion of Boom looking corners they got coming in these recent classes. All right. Thank you, Spencer. Appreciate that. But I will say this too about Kobe Black. I can't wait to see what the dime package is this year when they put their 6 DBs out there. I can't wait to see what combination they end up using, because they're deeper. I feel like deeper and more experienced at safety. They were more talented at corner, but I feel like the dime package may have more safeties than even corners in it. I feel, especially when you get a healthy Derek Williams back thrown in the mix.
That's the key.
Right? I mean, you're deep there. All right, let's get back to it. How about this one from Brett? Brett, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. He says, how much college football 26 have you guys played? Wisner plays like Prime Barry Sanders. Jeff, I'm putting the same bets in 2 weeks. Hook 'em. CJ, I'll leave this to you, because I will admit I have not played the game. If I break out that game, I'm gonna spend way too much time on it, and I'll probably get yelled at by wifey. So I got to come out here and act like I'm working to play the game. CJ, what are your thoughts? Have you gotten to the college football 2026 yet?
Yeah, believe it or not, I haven't even downloaded it. We've got SEC Media Days next week. I didn't want to get into a phase where I'm playing it as much as I can, and just completely throw it away for 5-6 days as we're traveling. Or, I didn't want to take the whole PlayStation out to Atlanta with the boys. So that was option 2. I just wanted to wait until I could sit down, really that final month of August, and just grind. So I haven't even played it. I haven't even downloaded it.
I'm way behind, man. I game vicariously through CJ on this. I'm still all about if somebody can pull me up a PlayStation 2 copy of NCAA Football 06 and just QB choice you to death with Vince Young, I'll do it. But that's my prime. That's my wheelhouse right there. I told you I blame myself because I was playing a game last year and just spammed counterplay with CJ Baxter and ran for like 300 yards, and then a couple weeks later he blew his knee out. So I blame myself for CJ Baxter's knee. The football gods cursed me for spamming the counterplay.
Oh, nice. All right, thank you for the super chat, bro. We appreciate that. All right. Oh, Devon has one more here before we give our first sponsor a shout out. Devon, thank you for the super chat. Another one, by the way, said a lot of talking hype for Colin Simmons, and rightfully so. Rod and Jeff, what can we schematically from PK to get more one-on-one reps for him? What can we get from PK schematically to get more one-on-one reps? Thank you, Devon. We appreciate that. Well, that's good. First of all, you want to get in more predictable passing situations. So winning on early down so you can get in third and long, which is the NASCAR package, right? That's when you throw out your 3+ edge rushers on the field, and you put essentially last year was a NASCAR dime a lot of the times. They have a NASCAR nickel package too. But what you need to know about the NASCAR package is it is easily one of the best third and long defenses probably in the country. Now I haven't tracked that officially, but just from the numbers that I have, I mean, it was 16% of your defensive plays you were in the NASCAR package, and I believe it was like over 40% of your sacks came in the NASCAR package. Like that's how impactful in terms of the havoc rate. Hey, your havoc rate in your NASCAR package was close to 30%. Your havoc rate in your regular defense, I believe your havoc rate was around 22%, somewhere around there, which is still elite. But then you think about what your havoc rate is in your NASCAR package. So the more you're in NASCAR, the better. But they were only really in NASCAR 2-minute situations where they're predictable passing situations where they're blowing out a team and a team has abandoned the run game and they're just throwing the football late to catch up, or if it's in a third and long situation. So that would be and I do think they're working on a package. I've said this is my theory for second and long. They were in second and long a lot last year because they won on first down so many times. And think about it, if you stop them for a 1 yard gain, 2 yard gain, 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9. That's a favorable area. Most teams will throw the football there. And if you can start to somehow replicate some of your havoc rates on third and long, and maybe doing that on second and long, in also another predictable passing situation, that's what I think they're I call it kind of a 2-4-5 flex, basically, where you got 2 D tackles, those 4 linebackers, hybrid players that Sark's been talking about, Colin Simmons, Trey Moore, Brad Spence, and Anthony Hill, all guys who can play on the edge and also play up for you and guys who can move around. I think they're working on a freaky flex package for second and long. That's just my theory. But
yeah,
it's just my theory.
We're about to talk to somebody who's going to be showcased in one of these PK pass rush packages here before too long. But that's my whole thing is we talk about Colin, and I'm not taking anything away from Colin Simmons at all, but I think Brad Spence and Trey Moore, how PK is able to use those 2 guys specifically, and how many pass rushers can you put on the field when you're kind of in more predictable down the distances?
Yep.
To make it really, and it might take some time too, Rod. Might take them some time to figure out the defensive tackle rotation too, to figure out, hey, who's a guy that can be, kind of a 3-down defensive tackle that we can just leave out there, who instead of who's a run stop specialist, who's a pass rush specialist. So it might take them a couple weeks to get all that sorted out.
Yeah, I would mix it. I would put my best 2 run stuffing D tackles in there. This is second and long package, specifically, right? Best 2 run stuffing D tackles. Those 4 flex players I told you about, Trey Moore and Colin Simmons on the edge, Anthony Hill, Brad Spence, both flexible guys at the off-ball linebacker. And I would complement it with a big nickel package. Run support, more run support. So basically you want to insulate it with run support, but still put all your best pass rushers on the field. Boom. That's how I would do it. Matter of fact, since we're talking about that, let's talk about a damn good pass rusher right now. I told you he'd be early. I told you he was early. That's what I've heard about the football character of this young man. Let's not waste any time. Let's dive right into it because we know his time is valuable. He is the newest member of the 2026 recruiting class out of Maid Creek in Houston, Texas. It is Kosi Okpala. What's going on, Kosi? Thank you for the time, man. We really appreciate it. I don't know if can we not hear him? Oh, Kosi, can you hear us? It might be.
Oh, can't hear.
He can't hear us. He cannot hear us. Oh, no. Okay. Well, all right. We're working on it. We'll get it fixed. I promise y'all. We'll get it fixed. We'll get Kosi back. All right. Because I think we're all excited about having that conversation with Kosi. But he is. So might as well just talk about Kosi. I don't know if he's going to be listening to us talk about him, but maybe he'll be flattered. He is that type of player that I do believe they are evolving towards. Sark has, I think the next phase for the defense is multiplicity. I've said that multiple times. I think they're going to try to conquer, having not all positionless guys, but at least a guy that has another dimension to his game. If he's not positionless or position flex, at least he's got another elite dimension to his game. In addition to being able to, obviously take care of the responsibilities of whatever position you have him playing. And I think, and you've said this before, Jeff, and I've heard you say it, and I totally agree. I think all the linebackers seem to be that way. All the linebackers they're bringing in seem to have that pass rushing element to them. It's
kind of like the evolution we saw at defensive tackle. You can have maybe one, big 340-pound run stuffer. You can't have a room full of those guys. You got to have 3 down players, and I think that's what you're looking at with the linebacker room now. And Kosi's the latest example of that, having guys that are legit 3 down players. It makes it the more you can do to make yourself unpredictable on defense, the better off you're going to be.
Yep, totally agree. 3 down players. I think that's basically what you're looking for at all levels of the defense. Texas certainly building that with a guy like Kosi. All right, so when Kosi, we get the technical difficulties figured out. Promise you we're going to try to bring Kosi back on. All right, so just real quick, getting back to Devon's last super chat. Devon, go check out my Sunday school from maybe 2 weeks ago. I think Matt might have labeled it like a second down defense. And I go into detail about my theory about the second down package. So there you go. I appreciate the super chat from you. All right, another super chat really quickly. Might as well get this in while we wait for Kosi. Keenan here says Sark has had a breakout freshman every year. Who's been here? Worthy, Banks, Hill, Simmons. Who's y'all's pick to be that player this year? Ooh, thank you, Keenan, for super chat. Appreciate that.
That's a really good question. I think we're all excited about Jonah Williams and what he could bring. Of course, no spring, so he might be, trying to ease his way back into the season. Of course, the 5-star dual sport star has really been circled since he was highlighting, basically every weekend out in Galveston ball. I'll also look at Lance Jackson. That's a really crowded edge room.
That's good
right now, but I heard some stuff over the weekend that leads me to think he's going to see the field pretty often.
Oh, that's good.
It is crowded, CJ, but he brings something different to the table than some of those other guys do. And Rod was talking about NASCAR earlier. That's a guy that can line up and play multiple shades. How much of that he's able to handle could determine how much he plays. But I know Justice Terry is a popular pick, and rightfully so. But I'm glad you said that, CJ, because I'm pretty close to putting my stamp on Lance Jackson. And Marco brings up another one, man. Hey, in the SEC, you're going to need a lot of running backs. James Simon's going to get some consequential touches this season.
Absolutely.
Hopefully early in the season in non-conference play to get him ready by the time you get to SEC play.
I will say, because that's a good question, fewer and fewer of those opportunities because of how stacked the roster is now. To come in and be that kind of impact freshman. But you're right. That seems to be the trend for Sark. I love your Lance Jackson one. That is really good. I mean, that's a damn good one. I would say it could be somebody in that second. I would say it could be that corner spot. I would say it could be one of those young corners who could step up toward the end of the season. Jeff, you brought up the fact, and I totally believe it, that there's going to be a metamorphosis in the secondary at one point. You've had to expedite your clock a little bit on the maturation of your secondary because you play Ohio State game 1. Best wide receiver room in the country. So you better make sure that you got experienced players on the field and you got your best group ready to go for that particular matchup. But as the season starts to go on, you may get a different identity in that secondary toward the end of the season once some of the younger guys can separate. So maybe it is a Cade Phillips. Maybe it is a Grayson Wilson. Maybe one of those young bucks that steps up later. So
I always like throwing this out there too. Anytime we talk about the Ohio State game, any freshman who gets non-special team snaps in that game, if you want to know who the dogs are going to be, who the breakout guys are, who internally the staff are the likes, like if you see Nick Townsend, even if it's 1 or 2 snaps, if you see him taking snaps at tight end, man, look out because he's about to take off in those next few non-conference games. Same with a Lance Jackson on defense or a Justice Terry or a Grayson Littleton, a Cade Phillips. Look for the guys that play, again, even if it's 1 or 2 snaps. If they're trusted enough right out of the gate to go to Columbus and get snaps, that means that'll give you a pretty good idea of what the staff thinks of them.
Yeah, looking back a year ago, I don't know if there were that many, right? We talk about Ryan Wingo and his impact, right? He had a 55-yard reverse run. Colin Simmons was another.
Yep. Gibson.
Jarrett Gibson, yeah.
Jarrett Gibson, yeah. I can't think of many others who saw, legit offense, defensive snaps in that game.
I think that's the 3. Maybe something we missed, but I'm pretty sure that was the 3. And they got like critical snaps, like not when the game was out of reach or anything like that. Like they were playing, in key moments. All right, thank you there, Keenan. We appreciate that super chat very much. Oh, I'm hearing that our special guest Kosi is back. All right, so everybody, let's hope we got our technical difficulties figured out. Kosi, can you hear us now?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
yeah.
And back. All right. Man, thank you, first of all, for doing this. We really appreciate it. We know you got a lot going on. Appreciate you taking time. Longhorn fans are excited to have you on. Let me just start with this because I know you actually talked to Jeff and talked to Bobby earlier. And I love what I'm hearing about you. How long have you been playing ball? Like when did you start playing football? And how long have you been playing linebacker? Were you playing some other position before that?
Yeah, I started playing 7th grade. I played 1 year at Little League. But I started playing 7th grade for real. And started out as like a receiver, like really. But I also played like linebacker too. I played both sides. But freshman year, like even on my freshman year highlights, like I had like some good receiver plays. And then sophomore year, I really like locked in on linebacker, and yeah, it's really that.
So you really ain't been playing tackle football that long. Like you really ain't been playing that long. Especially at linebacker. So that's what I wanted to know because I from what I hear, you got a really good kind of fundamental base of football knowledge. Just throwing that out there. And I think it's because you played the game for a long time, but you ain't played that long. Maybe that's because you put so much work into the film study that I hear about.
Yeah, most of.
Absolutely. Kosi, I know it's been quite a recruiting process for you. You visited Texas about 1.5 years ago. You get the offer, you come back, you camp again. And then really 12 months later, you end up committing to Texas. Can you just from the get-go talk about your interest in the University of Texas? And then also when it came down to making the decision, what was it about Texas that separated themselves from the rest?
Yeah, like, just process started a long time ago. They believed in me. They were my second offer. So, I always liked Texas. I ain't really had no favorite like team though. But I like Texas, like the coaches. Went there, camped, showed my talent, and then yeah. But what led me to this decision was like I think the fit and the opportunity to play. I think it was a little toss up between Penn State and Texas, but felt like it was closer to home. Believed in Coach Nansen, and yeah.
Kosi, talk about that. Just getting to know Coach Nansen, number one, and then number two, PK scheme. I don't know if you heard us talking about it, but it seems like you really fit the kind of off-ball linebacker they're looking for right now at Texas?
Yeah, that's what I liked about it too. Like, I just like the versatility. Like, even with, everybody know Ant Hill, but like even with Trey Moore, like I like how he's able to play off the ball and also rush off the edge. Players like Ty Anthony too, just doing like a lot of things, not really being in one set spot. And yeah.
Hey, Kosi, I've heard from Jerry Hamilton and from actually one of your position coach in high school, I believe as well, that you love film study. You love to dive deep into the film study. What do you try and identify when you watch film? And like who taught you how to watch film? You just kind of teach yourself, or you're a self-taught film watcher, or did somebody teach you how to do it? And what are you identifying specifically when you break down the film?
Well, really, yeah. I'm not. I had to learn how to watch film too. Like, you can't just watch film. You can't remember all that. So where I learned it from players who are already in college, players who are already like established and know what they're doing. But really what I'm looking for is tendencies. That's my first thing, especially if I'm playing off the ball. I'm looking for tendencies. And then based off that, you're going off of personnel and situation, first and 10, third and 10, what they like to do in those situations, and, the different situations and all that. But, yeah, just do it off that, and, yeah.
Nice. Do you ever look at player, like a guy that that, you're going to be facing or seeing a lot of, and you're trying to break down, their specific skill set? Do you look at player stuff, or just mostly the overall kind of macro of the scheme and situational football?
Yeah, I'll definitely look at the players. Feel like you got to know who you playing.
Yeah.
If I'm lining up off the edge, I want to know the tackles, know if they shoot high hands or low hands. But just watching, even your matchups, even if you're one-on-one on the back, know what he likes to do, know what routes he's going to run.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Nice.
Kosi, I got a bit of a funny story. I hope you don't mind that I tell, but it goes back to when you visited for the junior day in January. Jerry Hamilton and I were out there. It was a cold day. You came in with some shoes on that, might not match the burnt orange, right? And it might actually match that of another in-state school that Texas fans might not like a whole lot. And I know Jerry pointed it out at the time, but I got to ask, I see you got the sweater on. I'm hoping, you got all hooked up with the Texas gear after the commitment. You got the burnt orange shoes going right now as well?
Nah, I don't got no shoes, but they definitely got me some little shirts and jackets. So yeah.
Good deal. I'll ask you this one more, just to follow up, because look, you look great right now. What are you physically? Where do you want to be height and weight wise when it comes to the fall? And, did the staff also mention, where you might start in terms of off the edge or as a true off ball linebacker?
Yeah. Well, right now I'm, a lot of people be playing about me with the height, but I'm 6'2", 3/4 right now. So, and,
we'll round that up, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, everybody got me at like 6'1" and all that, but it's cool. But nah, yeah, I'm 227 right now. And really, my main thing, I'm not really worried about my body right now. I'm worried about my athleticism. I just want to get faster. Just get faster, get more explosive, and then when I get to college, they're gonna put some weight on me. So I don't think weight gonna be the problem. So,
so I just heard 6'3", 230. That's what I heard, Phyllis.
Yeah, there you go. You round up. I'm with you. Yeah, until you get to that combine, though, Kosi, then they're gonna chop it all the way down when you get to the combine. Unfortunately. Yeah. But that's a good problem to have right there.
Hey, Kosi, real quick, I got another question, but I want to get to this because Clayton Hart in the chat said my man sounds like a Rackpo with that voice. We talked about your relationship with Rack. How far back does that go? And have you had a chance? Did you talk to him before you committed? Have you talked to him since you committed? Just It's going to your relationship with Brian Arakpo.
Yeah, I'm not too close to him. That's my dad and all of them. But I do. He has gave me some signed footballs and all that. So it's definitely cool having that there. Just just being able to, with all my families, being able to just know like people before, and just why not be next? So yeah.
So I want to ask you this. Did you talk to Sark and the staff before you committed? Did you give them the heads up, or did they have to wait like everybody else till you announced? And on top of that too, how did you want to handle the announcement, knowing that, hey, you're going to commit to Texas, but Penn State, Miami, the other schools that put their time and their resources into recruiting you, was there part of you that wanted to make sure you do it the right way and be respectful to staff? How tough is that when you get down to making a decision like that to tell the other schools that have been on you for so long no?
It was tough. I just think like I just want to be. I always try to be open and honest with everybody who's recruited me. It's just a blessing to even be recruited in the first place. So I did tell Sark and them that I was going to be committed and all that. And I did tell the schools like that I was going to be committed to Texas. And just wanted to be like cool with it. Like I don't like when people be picking up the hats and throwing it off to the side. Like that's kind of crazy. So, but yeah.
Yeah, to each his own, right? Yeah.
That's kind of my shtick there, Kosi.
That is CJ's thing.
That is his thing.
There it is. Kosi, I had one more for you. You plan on enrolling in January? Can folks expect you as an early enrollee next year?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Nice.
We'd like to hear that. They'll get the body right nice and early then.
Hey, Kosi, let me ask you this, because I think when they asked you earlier, if you look at yourself as an NFL player and you got that kind of upside, of course, you keep working hard. Where do you see yourself in the league? You said on the edge, right? On the edge, rushing the passer. That's where the big bucks are. Do you have a signature pass rushing move, one that you have kind of your move that you prefer to go to?
Yeah, I definitely. I like the ghost, long arm to the ghost, just in that little area. Definitely rely on my bend and my speed. I feel like that's one of my strongest points in my pass rushing. So yeah,
I like that. All right, you guys got anything else for Kosi? I got one random question, but that's a random one. You guys got anything serious? Y'all can throw it out there before my random question and throw it.
Take it, Robbie.
Yeah, good. Random question for you. What's on the playlist for the pregame to get you hyped?
Playlist pregame. Shoot. I don't know if y'all know him, but it's a rapper called Lil Double O.
Okay, I'm writing it down. Write it down.
Yeah, I'll probably say that.
I'm writing it down. All right. Hey, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go when I go to the house. I'm gonna check out. I haven't checked it out. I don't know it, but I will after this interview. So thanks for the referral. We appreciate that.
Hey, Kosi, real quick, Kosi, since it got brought up in the chat, one of our viewers, Too Broke to Pay Attention, wants to know, who are you working to get on campus of the guys that are out there that aren't a part of the class? Which guys in this 26 class do you want to see come to Texas with you?
Man, I see. I'll be watching a lot of film. I wanted Jalen Lott. I'm not gonna lie, Jalen Lott. he seemed like that, but really, I'd say like from who I know, I'd say probably Trenton Henderson. If we could flip him, that'd be great. Gerville. Shoot. A lot many more, but maybe even Chase Calicut, if we could flip him too, that'd be good. So yeah,
H-Town.
I like it.
All right, there you go. All right, hey, Kosi, we can't thank you enough, man. This was great. Really appreciate it. Congratulations, all right, on committing to the Longhorns, and can't wait to get you on campus, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
All right,
appreciate it, Kosi.
All right, Kosi, hook him.
Sure.
All right, that is Kosi Okpala, the latest member of the 2026 recruiting class. Before we break down the interview, let me thank our sponsor, Andy Ludicky, before we dive into the interview and some of your questions about it. Let's thank Andy Ludicky and his team for sponsoring our Tuesday night live stream. You may be someone like me that has their hands in multiple businesses. Well, Andy and his team can take you through a very meticulous process that can help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. Andy Ludicky and his team, they understand that franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, and say you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you make or your schedule in general, you can call Andy. He'll take you through a process to help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and all your financial goals. All you got to do is reach out to him today, 404-973-9901. That's 404-973-9901. Or you can reach out at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's andy@myperfectfranchise.net. We appreciate him for sponsoring our Tuesday night live stream. All right. Before we get back to the questions, thoughts on the Kosi Okpala interview. Like I said, one of my favorite parts of it had to be when he decided that he basically told you he wanted Jalen Lott. I'm glad he was authentic.
Yeah.
Because I know that's one of your favorite guys. Yeah, you've been on the soapbox saying, hey, man, he's one of my must-get guys. You didn't get him. That's okay. But he also recognized the talent. He said, I've been watching film. He said, I watch film on them guys. That's how I know.
I love it. Now, I want to ask Kosi about not to throw shade on any other recruit, but Rod, I remember you telling me a long time ago that when you were going through recruiting, one of the things your dad made you do was the schools that you were no longer interested in, you were going to pick up the phone and call that head coach or the defensive coordinator or the position coach who ever recruited you and tell them, no, I'm not coming. That takes a hell of a lot of maturity to do, a hell of a lot. I mean, I can imagine, because he just told us, but it came down to Texas and Penn State, and he had to call James Franklin and that staff and tell them, thank you for recruiting me, but I'm not coming. And that takes a hell of a lot of maturity. Like I said, it's one of my favorite stories in the time I've been covering recruiting is I got wind that this is how long ago this was. When Hassan Ridgeway, right about 2 weeks before signing day, he made a surprise last-minute visit to Texas A&M, and I got wind that he was in College Station, and I call him, and he answers, and I said, hey, I just want to know if you're in College Station, and he's like, no, I'm not. I was like, you're not at the basketball game? He's like, no, I'm not. When somebody had sent me evidence that he was at the basketball game. Rod, I've never had this happen before, haven't had it happen since. Hassan Ridgeway called me the next day and said, I really want to apologize that I misled you. I was in College Station, he said, but I didn't think anybody knew I was there. I freaked out when you called, so I lied and I apologize. I didn't mean to mislead you. And ever since then, I'm like, man, Hassan Ridgeway has my respect for forever. Because what 16, 17-year-old does that?
No, not many.
And I totally understand getting caught off guard, but it's the fact that he owned up to a mistake that he didn't have to own up to at all. So I respect that part of it big time.
It's a great story. Yeah. And
I would have admitted. I would have been like, oh, what game? What gym? I could be in College Station. I don't know.
These days, nobody would answer the phone, though. You would just be like text. And you're like, nah, I'm good. I didn't get the text. I was doing something else. I didn't know. But I also like the fact, talking about the young man, that first of all, I said he was going to be early. He is early. But he does have a very professional mindset. Even about talking about him watching film, I love what he said. I watch the tendencies, personnel, situations. Guys, that is literally how kind of I start. You start with I mostly start with personnel. Then I usually go situations, and then I go tendencies. So I got a different order to it. But I mean, you can tell the young man's been well educated on at least the basic fundamentals of watching film. Not how to don't waste your time. You know what I mean? Like, you got to watch for 2 hours. Make sure you're watching for the right stuff. I want to ask him if he's going to get really advanced and start watching it at a faster speed. That's why I was going to watch him, because that's what NFL dudes do. It's freaky. Like people listen to podcasts at a faster speed so they can listen to an hour podcast in, I don't know, like 40 minutes or whatever it is. There are dudes in the NFL that are literally watching film at a faster speed so they can watch 2 hours of film in an hour and 15 minutes, an hour and 20 minutes, trying to save themselves time. Then they can watch more film or get more.
That's crazy.
It is great.
Yeah, I think part
I didn't
of
do that, and that's why Rod B didn't make it. That's a trick I didn't find out until I was done playing. I was like, people were doing that? Damn. So I was doing it the old school way, even when I was in the league. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, but I think that's one of the things, right? And not to say that, because I know you watch film the right way, but I think that's part of the deal. I think today's athlete is more in line of, and you hear this message in business now, and it just seems like it's getting more ingrained into our culture. Work smarter, not harder. Yeah, I think the days of like John Gruden, oh man, I slept for 2 hours on the couch. Well, what did you really get done?
Yeah,
How useful were you the second day of your little 38 some odd hour film watching session? Like, hey man, you got to compress time. The human brain retains information for so long. Here it is, get it done, file it away, and move on to the next. So I think it's not to say you weren't working smart back then, Rod, but I think it's changed. Times have changed a little bit.
No, it is. Like I said, it shocked me. I was like, actually, that doesn't make sense. But it's like retraining your brain. And that's basically what they were doing. They were kind of reprogramming themselves on how they watch film. So I found out their little cheat code after I got out of the league. But I should have passed it along to my man, Kosi Okpala. I'll try to do that. It's like, see if somebody on the 40 acres is doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Sandman is right. Sandman says Gruden is such a dog. I think John Gruden is really like just maybe the most football obsessed person in our society. Like CJ got to see it firsthand at Manning Pass. Like John Gruden went out. He didn't have anything better to do. Went to the Manning Passing Academy to watch Friday Night Lights. Like just flew whatever to Thibodeau. Like, man, if there's football to be seen, John Gruden's going to find a way to watch it.
I don't disagree with that. Yeah. I played for John Gruden once in my life.
Yeah, you did, Rod. You'll find John Gruden out of like a middle school. Feel like, what the hell's John Gruden doing here?
Yeah, I agree. I don't question his love, his passion for the game. That's for sure. All right, let's get back to the super chats here. V Brown, with an emphasis on versatility, does Gilbo get the start at nickelback or cornerback? And does Trey Moore start at defensive end or inside linebacker? Thanks for the question, V Brown. I can tell you that's one thing I am not really sure about. I know the move for Trey Moore to cross-train him and basically Sarkis admitted such to get him and Colin Simmons on the field at the same time more often. And whether that be having to move him to a linebacker role to do it, as I said, in a maybe a different sub package, like I said, that 2-4-5 flex package I kind of brought up, that could be it. Or it could be, simply with Trey Moore, something they're going to do situationally. Like I wonder if on a first down, you're going to have Trey Moore and Colin Simmons as your edge rushers on first down. And then what happens to Ethan Burke? You know what I mean? I think it's going to be a lot of situational matchups and they're going to be rotating guys based on situations. They had so much success with it last season. With the NASCAR on third down, I wouldn't doubt if they got a defense for first, second, and then one for third. There's so many talented players. They're so deep. If all these guys actually do prove to be, competent, capable players, D tackles, the edge rushers, how deep they are there. We talked about how deep linebacker is. They got like 4 or 5 linebackers that we're all talking about. That guy might need to play. Well, hell, there's only so many snaps in a game. I think they actually are going to get way more situationally specific. And that's how you may get Trey Moore involved a little bit more. Because you can't waste him. And Sark already said, I am not going to waste one of my best pass rushers. He said that. He said, people think I'm stupid. He literally says, if people think I'm dumb, I'm going to just put Trey Moore at linebacker and have him back there covering running backs. Like he's one of the second best or third best pass rusher on the team. He's not going to do that. And I'm glad he said that. I'm glad he mocked our kind of narrative that is Sark really thinking about moving him to actual linebackers? Like, no, I'm thinking about putting multiple my elite pass rushers on the field, as many of them as possible. That's what he's thinking about.
Yeah. To me, the first part of that question is the easier one to answer. I think Jalen Gilbo starts and plays most of the Ohio State game at nickel. And then I think after that, all bets are off because of that evolution we talk about in the secondary. The more I think about it too, Rod, two things that I don't think we talked enough about probably. You just mentioned one. Years ago, we talked about this on Longhorn Blitz, and I think we talked about it going into the 22 season with defensive tackle, where, hey, if you play an air raid team, it might be more, Byron Murphy and Moro Ojimo and less Sweat and Coburn, and vice versa. If you play a team like K-State that's more run heavy, you might get more Coburn and Sweat than the other two or whatever. it's just, I think we're finally here now where it's opponent specific, it's situation specific. You really are, rotating, trying to get your best matchups on the field. You're dictating the turns of the game on defense now with your matchups. The other thing too, and I feel kind of silly now that I haven't really thought of this, between Trey Moore, Brad Spence, Ethan Burke, and Colin Simmons, you kind of guaranteed yourself that if you have an injury, structurally your defensive integrity is not going to collapse. Like, you've got the ability to have guys in those spots if you have an injury. As Rod gets up, I'm sure he'll rejoin in a second. But CJ, I can't believe I haven't thought of that to this point.
No,
that it's about manufacturing depth as much as anything. Yeah, Rod thought my take was that bad. He had
it wasn't.
I know. I kid.
A dog emergency in the backyard, real quick. I apologize about that. No, but I agree with you. I think that they are extremely deep on the edges, and I think now they have guys like Anthony Hill and Brad Spence where they can play some not actual literal games like twists and stunts, but they can play games with defenses depending on the situation about who's going to be. And that's why I think they want more than one guy on the field that can do both, and there may be a package there for that. So I agree with you. I apologize for the abrupt exit there.
It happens.
All right, let me thank another sponsor before we move on here. Let's thank our friends over at Duck Camp. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Duck Camp back into the fold here at On Texas Football. Welcome back to Duck Camp, and that means football season is approaching. Duck Camp gear is made for the people that live for the moments out there where there are fish to catch, birds to hunt, time to kill, and football to watch. They like doing all that stuff. So they built a company centered around it, based in Austin and dedicated to giving people best-in-class hunting and fishing apparel. Duck Camp gear has been tested from the backcountry of Alaska to the dove fields of Texas, also ready to keep you cool and comfortable on those scorching hot game days. It will stand up to the toughest conditions, but also happily sit down beside a fire and drink a few cold ones if that's more your speed. That's probably more my speed. But some of their featured items include the sun protection shirts that keep you cool and dry and comfy, available in camo and in solid colorways as well, and their iconic game series hats that feel as timeless as the hats found in your grandpa's garage. Be sure to check out the new mallard hat and the pointer hat in the clay colorway. Pretty much their cherished burnt orange color. It's pretty close to burnt orange, as close as you can get without getting a cease and desist. So here's to great seasons, y'all. Yes, hunting and football. Shop hunting gear at duckcamp.com. That's duckcamp.com. Thank you very much to our friends at Duck Camp for sponsoring our Tuesday live stream. All right, let's get back to the questions. Joshua here says, just joined the stream, woke up from a long nap. Welcome, Braden Rouse, new Longhorn. Oh, wait, no. Thank you, Joshua, for the super chat. Thank you.
Time to go back to bed if that's the case. I wish I could take a long nap right now.
How close do you think it was? How close was the recruitment of Rouse, CJ? Was it?
It was close.
It was close.
Yeah, Texas made a pretty close effort here. Again, you're basically battling from a year and a half behind, and that's no fault to Texas, right? You know, he had been to Tennessee as a freshman. You know, went as a sophomore. Obviously, made several trips last year. Had only made 2 visits to Texas, and you know that's just part of the game where sometimes you feel like you got a great jump on a kid, and other times you're fighting from behind. But Texas made it close for one that ultimately, if it weren't for Texas, would have been committed probably months ago.
I'm probably gonna get in trouble with the chat again, but I don't really care at this point. And it's not. I love our regulars, but no disrespect. I'm not gonna go negative just for the sake of being negative. Yeah, it sucks. Texas has lost some recruiting battles, but you know what? Like, I had years taken off my life for covering Texas football from 2010 through 2021. Like, I'm done just being negative for the sake of being negative. Like, I'll admit that when it's a loss and it sucks, and I don't know what Texas is going to do at linebacker now. You're going to have to flip somebody. You're going to eval, go to the portal, whatever. But, man, I'm ready for the season to get here. I'm excited talking about some of the guys that are in this class. I'm excited thinking about SEC Media Days next week. I'm excited thinking about Texas going to Ohio State and coming out of Columbus with a win. I'm excited thinking about Texas winning the SEC. So I will be negative when I need to. I'm not going to do it just for the sake of, oh yeah, man, the sky's falling. This sucks. Sark's getting stuffed in a locker in recruiting. I'm not going to do that. So if you're looking for me to do that, go watch another show because it ain't going to happen here with me.
It's a nice rant. That was like a blitz-worthy rant almost. You didn't go full on rant because you were still calm, but
my cardiologist said I can't do that too much anymore, Rod. Just, like I said, man,
but it's
3 years of Charlie Strong took some time off my days, man.
Yeah, there's no need for it right now. There's no need for it, Jeff. You're right. Robbie did a lot of yelling and screaming and cussing during the end of the Mac years, the Charlie years, and the Tom Herman years, and even that first year with Sark, still a lot of angry rants. At this point, I haven't had an angry rant in a long time. I've had critiques. I've been critical, but I haven't just gone off just ranting like just a rage-filled rant, an expletive-filled rant in a while. I haven't done that. 2021 was the last time I think I had one of those where I threw something and broke something that like a remote or something because of Texas football. Like I've had I've broken phones because of Texas football. I don't know what kind of stuff watching games. And my wife is like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm just frustrated with Texas football." I haven't had a moment like that in like 3 years. Thanks to Sark. God bless you.
Yeah.
Days. I need to have a whiteboard. Just days since last broken item. My parents throw me into a padded room to watch Texas games.
Exactly.
Pillows and blankets only.
Rod once looked at me I was in the same room with Rod as he looked at me with grave concern as I chastised Brian Harsin for a good half hour for saying he couldn't get the ball to Marquise Goodwin against Kansas because the ball wasn't on the correct hash mark. I'm not going to try to think about that which by the way, can I just credit you, Rod? I haven't talked to you since then because I went on vacation. I tried to unplug as much as possible, but the third, as good as the Sark Third and Longhorn was, as good as the Mac Brown was, the David Ash episode of Third and Longhorn might be my favorite.
It was great, wasn't it? He was awesome.
And I thought the insight on the difference between Brian Harsin and Major Applewhite, given what I heard internally was going on at the time, a lot of that matched up. Yep. And I just thought it was very interesting, the dynamics in the Texas quarterback room at that point.
That's actually, I forgot about that point. You're right. Yeah, that's worth it. If you're a Longhorn fan, just going back and checking that out. But David Ash, I had no idea he was as funny and humorous.
Oh man,
I just didn't expect it, and I think I was laughing the whole damn interview. No joke, it was that funny. It was that.
You talk about a young man that when he got to Texas, and he touched on it a little bit too. Was a farm kid, just lived kind of this sheltered life, and then you throw him into Austin, Texas, and the life in the fishbowl of being the quarterback in Texas, and for him to have the perspective he has now, and to just see the David Ash that I knew at like 16, 17 and watch him now, like 10 to 15 years later, it is incredible. Like just I don't even know what you want to call it. Just like the metamorphosis of just him as a person.
Yeah.
Is incredible. Like there's just no other word I can use to describe it. It's incredible.
Yeah. You can tell the experience really transformed him, like of being the starting quarterback of Texas, having to compete for the job, the trials and tribulations that he had to go through. It really did. It transformed him, and I think for the better. Like it really did. But he talks openly about losing his identity a little bit after the injury and all that kind of stuff, which every player goes through if you have that kind of injury. But no doubt, if you have some time, check out the David Ash interview. I wouldn't lead you astray. We are wondering what the universe would be like if David Ash dude, and apparently he was an elite punter, like elite. And I was like,
that is pretty crazy.
You'd have been a secret weapon as a punter, man. Yeah. All right. You know what? Who knows? I guess maybe he can still try out. I don't know. He still claims every now and then he can punt it a little bit. So, all right. Let's thank another one of our sponsors. Let's thank our friend Mark Saunders before we move on to our some more topics here and some more questions. Thank you, folks. We appreciate all of you guys out there, and you'll appreciate having all of your most precious items covered and making sure that our friend Mark Saunders here can make sure that all of your items have that all-state coverage that you need. Here's the good news. If you want to get your car, your home, your boat, your motorcycle, RV, and ATV all covered or under the same policy with the same company, you can do that right now with our friend Mark Saunders over at Allstate. Call Texas Allstate agent Mark Saunders' office today at 512-218-8571. Are you in good hands? Well, with more than 35 years of experience, you will be with Texas alum Mark Saunders. If you're looking for someone local, Austin, Round Rock area, give him a call, 512-218-8571, or you can reach out at marksaunders@allstate.com. We really appreciate Mark Saunders and his team for sponsoring our Tuesday night live stream and being a part of the On Texas football family. So when it comes to protecting all your stuff, wouldn't it be great to have all of it protected in just one place under one umbrella? Well, you can do that with Mark Saunders and Allstate. Thank you very much to Mark Saunders for being a part of the On Texas football family. All right. Let's before we, because I know we're getting close to the end of things here, I got a couple of topics I'll bring up, and maybe we'll hit a couple of questions before we end tonight's live stream. If you wouldn't mind bringing it up, Matthew, Pro Football Focus, they were doing a coaching ranking the top 10 best coaches in all of college football. And I believe it's Max Chadwick, who does a lot of great work over there at Pro Football Focus, their college arm. And he did the ranking, and he has Sark in this ranking at number 6, behind Marcus Freeman at number 5. Dan Lanning at number 4, Dabo Swinney at 3, Ryan Day at 2, Kirby Smart at number 1. Definitely a theme with those top 3 guys, all guys who have won national titles. So I got no complaint with that. You win a national title, you should be considered a made man. What are your thoughts, CJ? Too high, too low for Sark at 6, in your opinion?
I don't know how you can put Sark above Kalen DeBoer. I don't know how you can do it. You know, it's a guy that led Indiana to a top 25 spot before taking on to Washington, making it a national championship game, beat Texas head-to-head twice. Rough first year at Alabama. I think that'll help once he gets a quarterback that can throw a football 15 yards. But that's interesting. That's probably my one thing. I think you have to give James Franklin a nod in the top 10 just because, look, that program has won games. They've won every game essentially that they're expected to win. Have they won games in which they've been underdogs? No, and that's the big fault of his. Brian Kelly, look, I'm not a Brian Kelly guy. And I'll leave it at that. But that's kind of my one thing is I think right now DeBoer has the edge on Sark. Now that could all change this year. But that list feels pretty solid to me. Dan Lanning might be a bit high though.
I have to do the thing with Brian Kelly that I used to have to do with Urban Meyer. Like, okay, I have to separate the fact that I don't think you're a very good person from the fact that you're a hell of a football coach. So I'll give you respect enough to put you in this top 10, which I think Brian Kelly should be. Glad they put Curt Cignetti in there because I think Curt Cignetti's a hell of a coach. Curt Cignetti's a perfect coach for a place like Indiana. Like, you need a dude that's just going to puff his chest out and
I love it.
Throw a middle finger at the world because you're Indiana football. What do you have to lose, right? Like, it's just we're talking about Indiana football. We've never talked about Indiana football in this kind of relevance. I agree with CJ. I would flip-flop Marcus Freeman and Dan Lanning because I just look at the caliber of athlete Marcus Freeman is recruiting to Notre Dame right now. They're starting to get the kind of skill guys on the perimeter. Let me rephrase it. They're starting to get the kind of talent on the perimeter on both sides of the ball that they need to be able to win a national championship. That's something Brian Kelly started to do, but I think Marcus Freeman's taking it to another level, including your guy, Rod Leonard Moore, who probably is the preseason favorite to win the Thorpe Award, other than Caleb Downs, obviously, if we're just talking about corners, maybe the best corner in the country. So I've flip-flopped Freeman and Lanning, and I'm with CJ. I would flip-flop DeBoer and Sark just because DeBoer's got the head-to-head wins, obviously, but, man, I respect Kalen DeBoer for taking a job that was a no-win situation for him. If he'd won a national championship last year, you did it with Nick Saban's players and Saban's program. he goes, what they would go 9-4, and it's you're terrible, you're tearing down the program. The Alabama dynasty is dead. So I think Kalen DeBoer is a hell of a football coach. I think if you just strip away the national titles and try to do like an all things equal deal, Kalen DeBoer is still number one on the list for me. I think he's the best coach in the country, but I would do that. I think Sark is probably in that 5, 6, 7 range. I think it's perfect for Sark.
Yeah.
What's interesting is if you do that, you give everybody, let's say, we're talking about the video game. Everybody gets a 95 overall team, right? Who elevates, who wins those games, who makes the in-game adjustments. I don't think Ryan Day is in that top 15.
Ooh, in the top 15. Okay.
Look,
okay.
I mean, you for all the flack that you give, or that we all give James Franklin for not winning that big game, you look, Ryan Day's lost to Michigan 5 straight years in which he was the favorite by probably 7 or more in 4 of those games. I think Ryan Day was very much the figurehead that sat on the throne in which his landlords did the work, and that's Chip Kelly and that's Jim Knowles, who's now at Penn State. So maybe that's what gets James Franklin over the edge this year. On top of that, one name that I would love to add to this list is maybe we need to see one more year, but I think Kenny Dillingham is going to be a guy that is right on the cusp.
Yeah, the arrow's pointing up for him for sure. And look, I just because I've seen some stuff in the chat, like I'm not knocking Sark. I'm not saying Sark is terrible. I'm saying he's in the cluster of coaches where I feel good putting in there. Sark is a better coach than James Franklin, and this is coming from the ultimate James Franklin apologist. I'm not a bash James Franklin supporter. I would put Sark no lower than 7 on this list. And if you're doing like an all things equal deal, I would probably have him. CJ, you really convinced me that Ryan Day may be souped up Larry Coker. I don't know, but you're making a really good argument.
I mean, that's what Jim Harbaugh always says, right? Born on second?
Born on third base.
Born on third base. I mean, it's a beautiful line, and it fits perfectly.
Yeah.
Truly.
Yeah. All right. Let's thank our last sponsor of the evening before we end today's program, my friend Andy Ludicky and his team. If you're looking to diversify, you may be someone like myself that has their hands in different businesses. Well, Andy and his team can help you diversify by finding you different businesses that will fit your time allotment and your financial goals. If you've been stuck in the corporate rat race with 2 weeks PTO and no control over the money you can make or your schedule in general, reach out to Andy today and he'll take you through a very detailed process that will help you find a business that will fit your skill sets and your financial goals. Franchise ownership isn't for everyone, but if you have a desire to take control of your financial destiny, reach out to Andy at 404-973-9901. That's 404-973-9901. Or you can reach out to him at Andy@myperfectfranchise.net. That's Andy@myperfectfranchise.net. All right. Thank you very much to Andy Ludicky for sponsoring our Tuesday live stream. All right, guys, thank you for all the questions. Sorry we couldn't get to all of them. Apologize. We did have a special guest, so thank you to Kosi Okpala for joining us tonight as well. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes. He's the real MVP. Sorry we couldn't get to all the questions in the comments, but if you want to throw them out there again, the guys will be there bright and early tomorrow morning for Coffee and Football at 8:15. That'll be Jerry and Bobby, and we'll be back for another Wednesday night live stream, same crew right here. So if you got the questions, you can save them for us tomorrow. Then we'll answer those questions for you tomorrow if you stick around for that live stream at 7:15 tomorrow. So thank you guys. Thanks, Jeff. We appreciate you taking the time. Thanks to all the great stories and the expertise. CJ, appreciate all your hard work. Thanks to Matthew. Thanks to all of our sponsors. W, thank you. I appreciate that. Not a legend, but I appreciate that. I can't call Derek Johnson a legend and then Rod B a legend too, but I appreciate that. I'm a Houston Lamar legend though. That I will take. Houston Lamar. Boom. DB high. Thank you to our friends at duckcamp.com. Thank you to Andy Ludicky and his team as well. We really appreciate him. And Mark Saunders as well. Thank you very much for all of your support of On Texas Football. For Jeff and for CJ and for Matthew, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.